Welcome to LexisNexis Risk Solutions Facing Change series. I'm Angus Sim, and today I'm delighted to welcome Paul Croucher, MD of Reliance Bank, to the series. Welcome, Paul. So, Paul, straight in, Reliance Bank, on your website, you mentioned that you don't love money, but you love what money can do. Can you just give us a flavour of what's special about Reliance Bank and what responsible banking means?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. We're owned by the International Salvation Army, whose mission it is basically to help people. So our underlying mission reflects that, and we're all about really influencing positive social change. So when we were rebranding last year and looking at our marketing, these words really resonated to us. Giving money meaning, that's what it's all about, is influencing positive social change.
Now, this crisis has impacted all of us in different ways. What's if you think the worst aspect of it, both on your bank, yourself, and your customers?
Everybody uses the words unprecedented. I can't recall how many times that's been used, but it certainly was. So it was a big shock to us, to everybody. Everybody had their individual concerns about themselves and their family. But obviously, we had to look after the business and our people individually. So it took an enormous effort to move us, literally within a few days, from working in the office to almost 100% remote working. And I'm proud to say we've done it, but it was really hard work.
Mentioning your customers, they must, like all banks, many of your customers, the third sector, they must be under a huge strain, not just now, but also looking forward to when we come out of this lockdown. Do you have one big message that you as a bank would like to get out right now? What would you be saying to the market?
I think the most important thing for business customers, charities, the third sector, is with your bankers, stay in touch, talk to them, tell them as soon as you're aware that there is a problem, much sooner rather than later. I think most banks are there in listening mode. Most banks are there to help. But fundamentally have a plan. Most of these businesses would have been viable before this, so they've got every opportunity to be viable coming out. So it's important to have a plan, and if it's difficult to produce that plan, engage a professional, a firm of accountants, somebody like that. There's plenty of people out there to help produce cash flows, profit and loss, all the sorts of information that banks are likely to need to help support.
One of the impacts of this crisis is, which some of our customers are noticing, is this shift to digital. So, and which is something that people also have to plan for, as you just mentioned. How is the shift to digital impacting your own banking operations, and what are your customers telling you about this?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question for us, because part of our transformation plan over the next 5 years includes a major shift to digital. We knew as we embarked on this journey, we were behind the wave. Rather than use this opportunity to slow down our transformation, we're finding ways to see how we can accelerate it. We just must do it. And that's what this really has brought home to us.
And of course, part of digital transformation means knowing your customer, and responsible banking means knowing your customer. Charities and third sector are also known to be vulnerable to fraud, sometimes more so. Are you and your sector under particular pressure to increase your vigilance against a higher risk of fraud in these times?
I don't think we have been put under pressure. There's certainly self-imposed pressure, because we were all aware as we were going into this that there was likely to be increased incidents of fraud out there. So, and we know that by putting ourselves into this type of operation, we have to be more vigilant. So I know we're no exception, that we've had to make sure that all of our staff are aware of potential increases, particularly internet fraud, scams, that type of thing. So it's been an increase, in reminders to our employees, additional training in that respect, to make sure that we have that increased level of vigilance.
So it's a combination of tactical and strategic. Perhaps to the strategic, do you feel that you can, is it possible to decrease the costs of compliance, which are also a very big factor for banks, but at the same time increase both security for you and your customers and deliver a better service to your customers?
And that's another really good question, and it talks to our digital transformation and really our engagement with LexisNexis last year, that we were doing a lot of things well. We were doing them manually, but part of our plan was to scale the bank and to grow it. And we knew we couldn't do that with our existing systems. So whilst initially the cost has increased for us as we've certainly engaged LexisNexis and other systems, we know that cost per customer is going to reduce over time as we build our customer base.
Finally, Paul, on a personal note, I suppose, or personal reflection, do you have any reflections on the likely lessons that banks in your sector will take from this pandemic experience?
Yeah, I mean, there must be so many lessons that we're all learning from this. I think probably the single biggest one is in terms of risk management. I mean, every single bank, financial services company had a risk register and would have had a business continuity plan. You know, a lot of those have been torn up through this exercise. None of us saw coronavirus coming. And the way in which the sector has had to implement their continuity plans has been incredible. The way that we've worked with each other, those of us that are members of UK Finance, we've had regular calls, we've shared best practice. So we haven't been alone in what we've done here, and it's been a tremendous effort to, you know, move from a largely office base to a largely remote working base, and still execute and run our businesses and serve our customers. So I think a massive reflection around that. And there's a lot of, you know, buzzwords that are used. The other one is, what is the new normal? And, you know, is the new normal more of this way of working, much more flexible way of working, you know, which could be better for people's work-life balance and actually create some efficiencies in the long run. So, and I'm sure it doesn't stop there, Angus. I think, you know, there'll be a massive list of lessons learned project that goes through every single bank and financial services organisation as we come out of this.
I just wondered, hearing you make that answer, do your staff, are you finding your staff are similarly engaged and inspired to rise to the challenge?
Everybody steps up. What it's certainly done is brought us closer to our people, because we've been talking to everybody. A lot of people have opened up a lot more about how they're feeling personally, their own fears and concerns for themselves and their family, how they're coping with this in terms of much more remote working. So it's brought us closer to people, which I think for us, I mean, we're essentially a small business, a small bank. We thought we were very close to our people. This has brought us even closer, and that's a great thing.